Hello, my loves. Welcome to Soul Love. Welcome back. If you've been here before, I'm Mafalda, and on this channel, I dive deep into the twin flame phenomenon, divine union, and I don't shy away from the real work. I talk about these topics in a clear and grounded way, hopefully to bring you clarity and guidance on your journey. This video will be a little bit more spiritually technical. I was asked to discuss the monadic structure and how the soul enters the material realms from a technical standpoint. So I'm going to be addressing this question specifically today. And I do want to preface this video by saying that, of course, there are divergent views or slightly different views on the nomenclature, the verbiage on what to call each aspect of what I'm about to describe, but hopefully this can give you a little bit of mental clarity so that you can feel into the resonance of the transmission. So let's begin by defining the monad. So monad, the word itself, means a singular unit. So this could also be seen as the source of consciousness. It's undivided. It's the unit from which all other organisms originate from. So this could also be seen as consciousness itself. So all of us originate from the monad. And from the monad, we come into the material realms as rays of creation or soul streams. These are terms that have been used by different spiritual teachers and spiritual light workers. But from this monad level, we come into the material realms as an oversoul, let's say. So an oversoul being the monad group, or a group of souls that could also be seen as our soul family. And the way this has been described is through a cosmic clock or a monadic clock. So the first emanation, the first level down from the monad would be a clock of 12 souls. 12 souls that would be positioned within this monadic structure in pairs. And these would be the monadic twins. The monadic twins that originate from source consciousness from the monad level and do not split further. It's just that initial down step into the material realms, and then they remain as that monadic soul, which has the potential for avatar level consciousness throughout their journey in the material realms, whichever worlds or star systems they visit, they live in. And this structure, from this monadic structure, these 12 souls originate from the monad. Okay, that's the clear. I hope I've made that clear. Now that could also be considered the oversoul, from which these souls can fragment or split further. And that's where you'd get the split soul twins, or even other souls on the planet, on this planet, and other worlds, of course. Because remember that monad level is from the 13th dimension above the light and sound fields, where there isn't any form yet. There aren't individual soul streams yet. It's consciousness itself. So from this level, you will get all these oversouls that come into the material realms. And in fact, that's where we get the number 144 from. Because if you do the math, 12 oversouls emanating from the monad, 12 times 12 would be 144, which would be the number of souls within your soul family. Why? Because you come from a soul stream or an oversoul that comes into the material realms next to or close to each other. So you'd be more similar in DNA structure, in the codes that you carry to these souls, because they're entering the realms of creation closer to you. And the number 12 is, in fact, a theme. It's a motif. That's why the 12-strand DNA, the 12 disciples of Jesus, Jesus's 12 disciples, etc. The 12 zodiac signs, although, of course, 13 is also a number and a motif, but I'm not going to go into that specifically today. So when we talk about the monadic twins, they would be a pair of twins that comes from that original monadic structure or cosmic clock that downsteps from the monad. So you'd be a pair within those 12. So 12 souls that make up 6 pairs of twins. And you could either be a primary twin or a gender twin. And this nomenclature comes from Lisa Renee's work that has channeled and transmitted truly extensively on these topics. So those souls, and if you are a monadic twin, won't have further split. Then, if those souls from that 12, that original 12, decide to split further as they come into the material realms, whichever dimension further down, then you'd be a split soul twin. So I was also asked if a soul child or a spirit baby would be from the same monad. So the way I've received this information is that they could either be from the same cosmic clock, that same monadic structure, or from one that's close to you that would be part of your soul family. So an oversoul that would be very close to yours, either from the same oversoul or from an oversoul or a monadic clock that would be close to yours. Now, of course, these terms, they can be interpreted in different ways, so don't take me literally on this, because you could either consider the oversoul the monadic structure, so that cosmic clock that holds the 12 souls, or you could consider the oversoul the level from which these 12 different cosmic clocks come from that give origin to the 144. Now, of course, this is at the original level. We're talking about souls that are just entering the realms of the material worlds. So, pardon me, this is prior to splitting. Of course, then there can be more and more and more and more splits. So the closer you are to this original cosmic clock, the more wholeness you're coming into each incarnation with. So the closer you are to that monad, to that level of singularity. And when we actually come into each incarnation, at the moment of conception, that monad comes in through the higher heart chakra, the 8th chakra, that lives in it's the thymus. It's at the level of the thymus if we look at this from a vertical perspective with all the chakras, which is activated on the twin flame journey. So, yes, of course, your soul family could be either somebody that's very, very close, so that would be your monadic family from the same clock, or even somebody from a very close ray of creation or soul stream. So I hope this is somewhat clear. Again, you don't have to take this literally, but this is so you can see how consciousness enters the material realms, or learn how consciousness enters the material realms through these rays or soul streams, oversouls, and then there's down steps from that where the soul is splitting further. So this whole process of ascension is to return to the God seed, to return to the monadic level. So to activate this level of monadic consciousness within our being. And that's what brings me to this idea of the monad, the dyad, the triad. So the dyad would be the pair of twins that then together, once activated, and once they return to inner union of their own masculine and feminine, their own wholeness, can activate the third wave or third energy, which would be consciousness itself, or the shared spiritual intelligence that emerges from the two becoming three, which then become one again as they return to God source consciousness, which would be the twin flame journey in general. Now, I do also want to make another point within this same video. The twins that are at the center of this cosmic clock would be the ones that are ready, the monadic twins. This is specific for monadic twins. So monadic twins that did not split further down from this original level, the first level of consciousness coming into the material realms. So the ones that are at the center would be the ones that are ready to ascend and ascend from this universal matrix. So this time-space matrix. So when we're talking about the material realms, we're talking about entering this time-space matrix. Again, this could be seen in different ways, because you could look at this time-space matrix as the first, second, and third dimension, and then the next universal matrix being the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth, which is exactly what we're entering as a human collective on Earth specifically right now. But the two pairs that are at the two pairs that are at the center, two pairs, four souls, would be the ones that are ready to ascend out of this time-space matrix. So having recovered enough of our own wholeness to return to God source consciousness. However, the other pairs might also meet in this lifetime. And of course, because we're living an ascension window or an ascension cycle on the planet, this has become more and more likely. So I've mentioned this in previous videos, that it isn't that there are more twins, is that there are more twins awakening, and it's becoming possible as the veils are lifting, as stargates are being activated across the planet, so that Earth herself can restore her original fifth to sixth vibrational frequencies. So you would still be a monadic twin with your pair, but you might meet somebody or your pair from within that clock, but you're not necessarily in your last lifetime ready to ascend. You would still be considered a monadic twin because your soul wouldn't have split or fragmented further. So of course, here there is nuance when it comes to these teachings. And of course, just take what resonates, take what works for you, what will help you on your spiritual growth journey. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that you might meet somebody that holds a lot of the codes, but you might not be yet at the stage of evolution where you will be going off planet in this particular lifetime, i.e. to ascend. And that would mean to come into avatar level consciousness in this lifetime. And you would still be on what would be considered a twin flame journey. Of course, if you're a split soul twin, you would still be at those initial stages of awakening. Pardon me. And here is where it gets interesting, because it's where you might get those examples of false twins, where you're meeting somebody that's either very close to you in terms of their monadic clock, so coming into the material worlds in a soul stream or as part of a soul stream that's very close to you. So they would carry a lot of the codes or very similar, but not your divine counterpart. And so that experience may bring you a lot of what you need to get triggered to ascend, but they won't necessarily be your divine counterpart. Or it just might not even be the lifetime that you get to ascend, which means also union. Of course, this is becoming a lot more possible, and you do have free will within this universe. So, of course, how much inner work you do to come into Heros Gamos, the sacred marriage, the inner union of the masculine and the feminine within, is going to influence what you unlock as the possibilities for yourself and your counterpart in this life, should you have met or should they be incarnated on the planet at the same time. The last point, I don't know if I said that the one I just made was the last one, but the last point I want to make is that, of course, there can be incredible amounts of interference from the counter forces on twin flame journeys. So there can be overlays. So experiences of false twins could also be AI programs or overlays to mimic your counterpart that could be considered a distraction on your part and could be considered energetic interference to keep you distracted and to keep you from actually being activated by your true divine counterpart. So that could also be seen as an experience of a false twin, which is very different from a karmic soulmate. A karmic soulmate would still be part of your soul family, but they would carry that karmic weight of those lessons that need to be learned and that disentanglement that needs to happen for you to be able to anchor in the higher frequencies of unconditional love and above. So I do want to wrap this up by saying that whomever you met, however close they are to you within the monadic structure or the oversoul family or group, whichever relationship you're in is always going to catalyze you to awaken to who you truly are, to bring you the experiences you need to have to activate more of your dormant DNA so that you can progress on this journey of awakening to God source consciousness, to unity consciousness, the interconnectedness of all, so that on this planet specifically, we can restore the template and the paradigm of service to all as opposed to service to self. So I hope that this video has brought you some clarity, that it has brought you some insight. Do let me know in the comments if you've enjoyed it, if you resonate, if you've received downloads that confirm what I'm sharing here. I'd be so interested in knowing what your thoughts and feelings are on this topic. And do check out the links as well that I leave in the description box and in the pinned comment if you are seeking guidance or support on your journey. I have a few different offerings and services available, so don't hesitate to reach out if you're feeling called to take that step and, elevate on this journey. Thank you so much for watching this video. I send you all so much love, and I wish you all the best.